This one decision I made me the most money by far. My name's Zach Dingy. I run a solar sales company that now does over $50 million a year in annual sales. When I first dropped out of college at 19 years old, I had a lot of different decisions to make. I wanted to pick a certain industry and a certain thing that I knew if I stuck with this, it could make me $1 million plus a year. And so that decision I made that I'm talking about in this video is picking one niche and sticking to it. The median job tenure for someone between the ages of 25 and 35 years old is 2.7 years, meaning somebody fresh out of college, on average, they stick at their job for less than 3 years. They change jobs every 3 years. Now, what does that data tell you? What does that number show you? Well, wealth loves time. And so if you're jumping from job to job every 3 years, it's very, very, very hard to get great at anything. How long did LeBron James play basketball before he made it to the NBA? How long did someone master a skill set before they got paid for it? They usually have to work for a decade, multiple decades to get really, really good at something. And so a lot of people will pick something and then jump because this looks greener or that looks greener. And so today, I'm just gonna go through what it looks like to stay with one job, why you should do that, and what the financial benefit of it is, and what it did for me. So when I dropped out of college, I was 18 years old, and by the time I was 19, which it happened to be right around the same time when I dropped out and turned 19, I was looking for a job that could pay me a lot, and then I could stick with for a while in a good industry. I really didn't know what the heck I was looking for. I knew those were my thoughts. I ended up landing in a door-to-door sales company and going and selling solar. There are always so many things that you can choose to focus on. And so throughout my 8 years, I thought about doing 10 different things and leaving the company. Every 6 months, I would have a thought. Should I go do this? Should I go do this? My friend's doing insurance. This guy's doing real estate. This guy just founded this new company that he said I can be a part of. I get job offers from other solar companies every 3 months. The thing is, I've stuck with this for so long that now what I do in a day, I can accomplish in a day what used to take me a month to accomplish. For example, in the beginning, I was doing, let's say 5 sales a month, okay? And that was like my 3rd or 4th month in, I was averaging probably about 5 sales a month. Now today, I have a team of 80 people. We did 15 sales on Saturday. So now I 3x my output. What I used to do in a month, my team does in a weekend or a week, really a day. And I've been tempted to leave many times. When I started in solar, I also had another company that I had bought at the time called Master Networks. That was a networking organization. If you're familiar with BNI, very similar. I think Master Networks is a fantastic thing to do. So if you look that up and you want to join a networking chamber of commerce kind of type deal, fantastic idea. But I ran that in the state of Connecticut when I was 19. I bought into that business and I was running that business at the same time I was running solar. So when I started out, I dropped out of college, I bought this business, I was about 6 months into it, and I spent $50,000 in that business, basically all the money I had at the time. And I also started in solar. 6 months in, I realized I can only choose one of these two things. I can't buy this company and then grow it at the same time I'm trying to grow my solar sales. So I had to decide. Eventually, I decided to get rid of Master Networks and just stick to solar. Now, boom, 7 years later, I make 15 times the amount I would have made if I was trying to build 2 big things at once. And so I learned this the hard way, and it's made me, obviously, like I said, now I make over 7 figures a year doing just one thing. And a lot of people, the reason why I think this video is so important is because a lot of people think that they need to do all these different things. There's such a common trend now where you talk to somebody and they're saying, I have 2, 3, 4, 5 different things I'm doing at once. I have a podcast, I sell this, we also open up this part of the company. And you know, these people, we sell these people marketing, well, they also need fulfillment, so why don't we sell them fulfillment? Well, these people also probably need help growing their sales team, so I'm gonna sell them coaching. Everyone thinks to do that, and at the end of the day, the reality is, you can only be great at so many things. Usually, it's a very, very small, like 1 to 2 things you can be great at, so you have to pick those and stick with it. And I didn't really start seeing the compound effect of how this really works until I was about 5 years in. So to give you a timeline, my first year I made $99,000 in sales. My second year I made $180,000. My third year I made $270,000. My fourth year I made $380,000. My fifth year I was well above five figures. I think it was like 620,000. My sixth year was 1.2 million, and then 7-year, 8-year, multiple 7 figures now. So I went from 99,000. 4 years later, I was at 380,000. Then years 4 to 8, I went from 380,000 to multiple 7 figures. And so I 4x'd my income in those first 4 years, and then 10x'd my income in the next 4 years. That is because compounding effect. That is because I stuck with one thing long enough to go from beginner to okay, to good, to great, to domination. But I can only get to domination if I go through all of those other processes and failures, basically, and successes. And so I think the big thing now is picking the right industry, which is a whole nother video I can do on its own. But essentially, my really big piece of advice here, when you are looking to, let's say, pick something and stick into it, I think more important than necessarily the industry you're picking is the person or company you're working with. A lot of people will go and they'll look for the big corporations or a big name brand, or they'll look for someone who's really, really successful. It's not always the right fit. If you go for a big name company and you're trying to get in and explode in that business, and let's say that company already has 1,000 employees, well, you're 1 in 1,000 people. That's very, very difficult to rise to the top of that business. Even if you stay with them for 10, 20 years, you got to join the corporate ladder, which is going to be way slower than if you go to a company who has 10, 15, 20 people, a smaller business, and you're 1 out of 20 employees. That's a way better number than being 1 out of 1,000. And also, if you provide big value to a company that's 1 out of 20 employees, you will be noticed very, very fast compared to a company that's 1,000 employees. And so my suggestion to you is that if you are in this position, you're trying to pick something to do, look for the person or the company rather than the industry. The industry matters, but there's so many industries you can make money in. There's basically unlimited industries to make money in. You can make money in any business you choose. Dry cleaning, software sales, AI, solar, doesn't matter. Anything you're gonna make money in today. It's just, do you have the right team? Did you join the right group? Are you with the right company? And that matters a whole lot more than the actual industry itself. And so pick your running mate is what I call it. Who is going to be your running mate? Who's going to be the person that is going to take you to that next level that you're going to work with, that's going to help you grow by 1,000x? Your career works the same way that investing does. If you look at the stat about Warren Buffett, which I'm sure everyone knows Warren Buffett made 90% of his wealth after the age of 60. Why is that? Because he just kept putting money after dollar, after dollar, after dollar, after dollar, just kept putting it away into investments. And then eventually it grows so much after 30 years of being invested that the amount you make on year 31 is more than what you invested in your first 10 years. And people, I think, understand that concept when it comes to investing, but they don't understand that concept when it comes to a job. We think grass is greener, this industry is exploding, let me get into this industry. All businesses are like this. They're really, really good. They're the beginners, and they're people who get in early and make a lot of the money. Then it levels out, and then it usually kind of slows back down. That's the name of the game. Or it kind of levels out up here, and then it kind of has this stagnant, maybe a little bit of growth or a little bit of decline, but everything eventually comes to the same level. And you can't pick all the new hottest things and expect to get really, really good at them if you're brand new. And so just like investing, you have compounding effect on your job. When I first got into door-to-door sales, a year in, I thought I knew everything about door-to-door sales. 8 years later, I've knocked on over 50,000 doors, and I've realized I am not that great at knocking on doors. I don't know a lot of things, but I'm 1,000 times better than I was in year one because of all of my experience. Now you can drop me anywhere in the country and I can go and knock on doors and sell solar. But my first 5 years, I had to fail all those times to be able to do this now, 8 years in, and have all of that knowledge. Here are 5 things that compound when you stay with one company. Number 1, your relationships. There are certain people in my organization that I now trust with my life because I've worked with them for 5 years. And I've dealt with problems, I've had positives, we've taken trips together, I've met their family, we've done things where I now know exactly who this person is, and I trust them to such a degree that can only come from years and years and years spent with people. Eventually, time shows you the true colors of someone. So the compounding effect of relationships and working with the same people for 5, 6, 7, 8 years is that you know exactly how they operate, what they're gonna do, and there are certain people in the company where when I say, hey, can we do this, or hey, can you do this for me? I know without a shadow of a doubt that they will do it. And there's other people that I know, hey, can you do this for me? That 99 times out of 100, they're not gonna do what I ask. So number 1 is relationship. Number 2 is expertise. I can answer any objection about solar now in my sleep. I know exactly how to help people when it comes to how do you overcome this objection or this objection? How to use this software tool? Who should I call for this permitting job? I know because I've seen 7,000 jobs now be installed for solar. I know how all of it works. So I have massive expertise because I've stayed in that industry for so long. Number 3 is reputation. You can't take away that Plug PV now has 800 5-star reviews on Google. That reputation was earned and it is proven, and there's no other way around it. If I started another company, even if I grew it at twice the speed, it would still take me 3 to 4 years to get to that amount of reviews and that amount of reputation. When you talk to people in our local area, everybody knows the name Plug PV. That takes years to build. You can't do that overnight. It takes a really long time to do. So number 3 is reputation. Number 4 is income. Like I said before, in my first 4 years, I made, if you counted up all those years and added it together, probably made like $700,000. The next 4 years, I probably made $4 million. So how do I go from first 4 years in business, 700,000, the next 4 years, 3 million, 4 million? That's because it started to compound on itself. I started, instead of just me selling, there was 10 people selling, then there was 20, then there was 30, then there was 40, then there was 50, then there was 80 people selling solar, and now I have a huge team across 5 different offices. And in that meantime, I probably could have had 150, but I had to make all those mistakes. Now I know the mistakes not to make, and so that can grow faster as well. And last thing is leadership. This kind of goes with the same, all these other things, it compounds into one, like the credibility of being a leader, the income, the expertise, the relationships I have, all of those things summarize into, I have leadership now, and I can apply that into other people, and I've earned that leadership level and that title that I have and everything that's happened. And so all of that's compounded. So those are the 5 things that compound when you stay in something for long enough. Now, 3 myths that people believe when it comes to jumping industries or staying with the same company or niching down. Myth number 1 is switching industries equals growth. You're not growing, you're just moving laterally. So you think because you're going this way and then you move over here that you're somehow growing. All you're doing is taking a step to the side. You're not going any more forward. You're not going vertical, you're going horizontal. Kind of summarize I can do for you in one sentence is, would you rather be good at 5 things or the best at one thing? What do you think pays better? Being good at 5 different things or being the best at one thing? How much more money does Steph Curry make because he's the best at basketball compared to the average 5 players in the rest of that roster? He makes way more because he's the best at one thing compared to the number 6 through 10 man on that roster in Golden State. That's how business works too. People kind of know these things across the board, but they don't apply it to business and their job and what they're doing day to day. And so switching industries does not equal growth. Myth number 2, the grass is greener. The grass is never greener on the other side. It is so simple to say, well, look how much easier that business is to make money. And when you get into it, you realize this is not what I thought it was. Look at all these other issues that come along with it. There are pros and cons to everything. No matter what anyone tells you, there are pros and cons to everything. Yes, is it easier to make money in the solar industry than maybe the restaurant industry? Yeah, probably. There's probably good data to back that up. However, there are still people who make hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, owning restaurants. So it's not impossible. And if you've done 9 years in the restaurant industry and you've opened up 2 different restaurants, to jump ship and start a brand new industry, you are starting at almost ground zero. And so the grass is not greener. 99 times out of 100, the grass is not greener. And so you don't want to waste time trying to pick the one magic pill, because you're going to waste a decade on picking the wrong ones. So pick something and stick with it. Myth number 3 is I need to diversify my career. It's probably the biggest one. People think they need to diversify their career, which is totally different from diversifying your income. You don't need to have 5 different careers and different skills that you learned over the course of a decade to be really, really good. All you need is one, and to be really good at one. And I feel like I'm beating the dead horse saying this thing over and over again, but you can diversify your income later on. You can buy different stocks and gold and bonds and crypto and all these different things. But all you need is one income. All you need is one career. You don't need 10 careers. Pick one thing, get really, really good at that, stay in it long enough to see the real fruits of your labor. Then you can diversify your investments and things later on. But 99% of my money that I've invested multiple 6 figures into crypto, into stocks, into real estate, into my home, into multiple different investment vehicles. All of it has come from solar. This content, YouTube, our podcast we used to have, all that money was funded by solar. So all my money came from one place, then went in different places to actually invest it. The 4-filter framework for how to pick your niche. Now earlier on I said in the video that you need to look for the specific person you're trying to run with or a specific company. But just a real quick framework for once you find the person in the company, then just to make sure that you also are in the right industry, because it does have a lot to do with it. Is the market growing? Does it have potential to get bigger or grow more? Is it something that's hot right now? Or is it just a trend? Is it just kind of something that's like NFTs, did people just start talking about this thing 6 months ago? Probably not a good industry. Number 2, what are the top people in the industry making? Is there an income ceiling? Are the best guys in that industry making 400 grand a year? Might not be the best industry to be in, because you can never get above, $1 million. Number 3, are the things you're going to learn transferable? In door-to-door, I learned communication, I learned negotiation, I learned leadership, I learned hiring, I learned team building. I learned different things that even if that industry were to go away, God forbid, I have skills that I can go take to the next industry to figure out what to do, essentially. And filter number 4 is, can you build compounding income? I don't like the word passive. It's more like residual or kind of guaranteed, so to speak. Can you build compounding income where the work you do today will also pay you in a year or 2 years or 3 years? And that comes from building a team potentially. But those are the 4 filters. Is the market growing? Is there a ceiling? Can you transfer the skills? And then can you compound your income? If you look at maybe your friends or somebody they may have picked an industry and stayed in it for 30 years, and you look at their life and you go, well, that's not what I want at all. And so there's a little bit of a level of dichotomy in everything I'm saying, which is you do have to pick the right industry, person, or company so that if you give it a decade of your life, you can really make some serious money. So the last part to this is that when you're looking for the opportunity or looking for the company, you have to also look for, if I commit to this for a decade, what does that look like? Is there somebody in that industry that has done it for 10 years, and what does their life look like? If I looked at my company and my organization when I first got into it, I can look and say, what are other people making doing solar or solar sales? Is there anybody that's been in this industry for 5 to 10 years, and what does their life look like? and I could kind of future pace and forecast what can I potentially do. Now, I had other reasons and I had other ideas about how I would do it and how mine would be better. But you also have to make sure that when you go and pick something, there is a room for growth. And I think that's the big part of this whole video that some people could watch this and say, well, I disagree with some of the things he said, is because you have to make sure you pick the right company and or industry. Because if there isn't room for growth in the company, yes, you can go waste a decade of your career doing something that never has the potential to make $1 million+ dollars. So for you, I'd go back to that framework and look at, is there growth in that organization? Do I have capped income earning? Those things that will prove, okay, if I stick here for 10 years, I know based on these other 6 people that I just found that they have XYZ amount of income in that company. And so once you have that though, then you can commit for a decade and it can compound. So once I figured out, oh, my first 1, 2, 3 years in solar, my income doubled every year, and look at other people that are making even more money than that, got it. Now I can stick to this and do it serious. And now, again, that's when my income 4x in the first 4 years compared to 10x in the next 4 years. Because once I found out it was good and I committed, then it compounded. So I picked one niche. I've stuck with it for almost 8 years now. It took my income from $100,000 a year to multiple 7 figures a year. And a lot of people do not stick with the same company. And I think it's very, very common today. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because the average Gen Z person who's in their 20s will stick with the company for 2.7 years. People underestimate what they can do in a decade and overestimate what they can do in a year. If you do one thing for a decade, you can change the world in a decade, and you really can't do much in a year. And if you enjoy this video, my suggestion to you would be to niche down and only watch my content for the rest of your life. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thank you.